Hey, how are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. So pretty much today we're just carrying out this interview to gauge a feeling and just an overview of how you feel about remote learning as it becomes more and more common. This is particularly relevant for us with the COVID-19 pandemic and having to have lockdowns.
Yeah.
But also as just overall we move into a more digital world and the stuff's going to become more and more common every day.
Yeah.
So we just kind of want to see your opinions, views, and overall whether you think this is something that could happen in the future. So have you ever partaken in remote learning?
Yeah, I study business management at the University of Waikato, and throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, starting last year, we went into our first lockdown where we sort of got introduced to this idea of remote learning, and then they've incorporated it into our papers this year just because COVID-19 is still lingering around. So there's been, it's in all of the papers more than it was before. And then obviously because we just had our previous lockdown, so we got switched to all remote learning again for that as well. So yeah.
And so when you're in this remote learning environment, are you receiving the same or more or less guidance and support than you normally would in a face-to-face environment?
I think you're receiving a different type of guidance.
Right.
It's sort of it's the change from having talking to your lecturers just face to face compared to having to email them and talk on Zooms and things like that. So if you want to have that extra guidance, you have to seek it out yourself via email instead of just talking. So for me, because I don't personally like doing it that way, I think I've received a little bit less guidance.
Okay.
Obviously, due to my own level of seeking it out, but I have received less guidance, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So then let's say you are in this remote learning environment. I just want to know, what's a typical day going to look like for you?
Typical day, well, I go about my typical day pretty typically. When, I like hanging out with my friends and my family, so if I ever get the opportunity to do that, I always try and seek it out, which means obviously because you're on your own time, sometimes that uni gets pushed back and delayed and things like that,
right?
Just because you choose when you do it yourself rather than having your times where you have to go to class and actually seeing your lecturer face to face. Is definitely a lack of doing that uni work that goes on throughout the day just because of that.
So overall then, how do you feel about this remote learning? Are you for it or?
I think there are definite aspects of it which are beneficial to me just because it is quite nice to choose when you do things and be about your own time and organizing yourself. However, I think at times you definitely need that guidance there that sort of keeps you accountable for doing your work and making sure that you're staying on track with everything that you need to do. So for me, it's mixed emotions, really. Some things I do like and some things I don't like, but I'd say an overall sort of a look at it, it'd be negative.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then with that lack of accountability that you speak of in mind, do you feel that it's hard, like you feel more anxious and stressed overall about the whole uni in that remote learning environment?
Yeah, I think because there is that possibility to sort of just keep pushing things back, it creates, a massive amount of workload that you have to cram into, 3 days. Yeah, obviously, because you didn't plan and coordinate doing that assignment very well yourself.
Yeah.
You still can get yourself into those sort of sticky situations just because it's all up to you. Whereas, when you go into class and see your lecturers and I feel like they give you a bit more clarity with the instructions.
Okay.
It just makes it easier to do everything and get it all sorted properly.
Okay.
So for me, it's just having that person keeping me accountable throughout my studies, which really is a lack of throughout the remote learning.
Okay, so then I want to look at communication in this remote learning environment with your lecturer how are you communicating with them?
For me, I either email them, or we have classes online over Zoom, and you can ask a question to your lecturer just by turning on your microphone or things like that. So those are the two main ways that I talk to my lecturers with the remote learning, which I personally don't really like, just because I like having that face-to-face communication and being able to just see your lecturer and really get a bit more guidance from them. I think I prefer having this communication rather than emailing.
So do you feel like not being able to see them face to face and actually talk to them almost leaves for a little bit of miscommunication that you can't?
Just because there's certain things that you can pick up from actually talking to someone face to face, and there's not that barrier like a laptop or something like that you have to go through to actually communicate with a person. You can sort of just talk to them as we're talking right now. So it makes it a lot easier.
So then I just want to ask, do you feel that a student that has, let's say in the future, he's gone fully through this remote learning process for his degree, is he going to be in a worse position than, say, someone that's done their degree fully face-to-face and in this environment when they're in the classroom all the time?
Yes, I think it comes down to the individual themselves and how motivated they are and how well they can communicate with their lecturers. If they can do all of those things really well, which I think most people can, then they'll come out with a degree that's top, it's pristine and it means a lot. However, there will be certain individuals which may abuse that sort of benefits that have remote learning, and then down the track a few years from now, they've not really understood and taken in a lot of the information that you should have, which means that you're sort of a little bit less prepared going into a workforce and actually having to do your job. And when things are on the line, then maybe that inefficiency to have that understanding, it might lead to something bad. So it's scary, the possibilities, but once again it comes back to the individual.
Okay, so then with that in mind, do you feel like some kind of split or something could be arranged where some degrees were offered face-to-face, whereas others were more so in this remote learning environment?
I obviously there are the benefits that we were talking about of the remote learning, and there are benefits with having that face-to-face communication and contact with your lecturers and stuff like that. There's benefits to that as well. So if somehow they can merge the two, because I've seen there are papers that are already solely remote learning. So I think finding a nice balance between the two, where individuals are able to learn as much as they possibly can and take in as much information as they can. If the two of them can merge, then that's definitely a possibility for the future.
So speak of the future then, let's say 10 years. Is this something that's actually going to happen? I want to know if this is just something talked about or whether this could actually be happening in our universities.
Well, like I previously just mentioned, there's already papers that have been introduced and provided all online, and there's no interaction with your lecturer other than through your laptop or phone or anything like that. So going into the future, and especially with all of the technological advancements and things like that we've been seeing over the years, this is definitely a big possibility for how papers and degrees are offered. Definitely.
So then finally, like holistically speaking, is this beneficial for us? Do we want to see this change keep coming in just to offer, I guess, greater flexibility in every day?
Going back to a question you mentioned just before about a balance between the two. If somehow the unis can develop their procedures and protocols to do around remote learning, I think there's definitely a lot of benefits that it will provide to future students, and it really just depends on their ability to keep upgrading it and keep making it better for students.
So I agree, this is definitely something for the future, something that's going to become more and more common every day. I really appreciate your input on this, and thanks for the interview.
Thank you.